Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video I'm excited to do, I'm going to be ranking all of the eyeshadow palettes that I tried in the month of August. I have 10 different palettes that I tried. I'm going to be ranking them from my least favorite to my top favorite. This is a series I do every single month on my channel. I talk about new products, I talk about older eyeshadow palettes, and there's quite a few older ones in today's video. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, welcome. So I always start off with an outfit of the day. So today I just have on some slides from Amazon. These white shorts are from Target, and I don't quite remember where I got this tank top. I've had it for a very long time. I did just finish filming. I got in the new Sigma and Alice in Wonderland collection. So today was supposed to be a hair washing day. So I slept in my braids last night, but then the Sigma collection came and I was like, I have to film with that. And then I did this eye look and I was like, I feel like I shouldn't let this go to waste. I'm going to film another video. So that is what we are doing today. So hopefully some of you can relate to when it's hair washing day and it's like, if I take the braids out, it's just gonna be worse. It's gonna be worse. So we're just gonna leave them in. But this video on the Alice in Wonderland collection should already be up on my channel. So I will link that down below. I do always link out all of the makeup that I'm wearing. So all of that will be in my description box. If you are new to my channel, like I said, I love to do this series every single month, and I don't just cover new products, I do also talk about the older palette. If you aren't subscribed yet over here, I hope that you will. I'm posting right now about 5 times a week and a whole lot of shorts in between that. So you have long form and short form content. Got it all. But to jump into it, I'm going from 10 to 1, and at number 10, I do have a newer palette, and this one isn't bad. I don't feel like I had any out and out total misses this month, but it's not great, you know what I'm saying? This is from Urban Decay, and this is the She-Hulk palette. Now, I will say, I got this in PR from Urban Decay. I'm not familiar with She-Hulk. I'm not the biggest fan of this layout. Like, it is a very large eyeshadow palette. It's very long. You have a lot of space in here. You have this one green shadow that's quite larger than anything else. Mine did come with the shade Trademark This, completely busted, completely shattered. There was no chance I was going to be able to get that one to work again. So I do have a video on YouTube, my first look with the She-Hulk palette, and then I do have a second look where I used this Thunderclap shade, and just my second look I just used 2 shadows. But from my first impression, I was saying even from the swatches that they just don't feel like fabulous eyeshadows, and even some of the shimmers, they just feel very dry. Sometimes when you swatch something, it looks so much better in the swatches than it does on the eyes, and you're like, okay, don't get too excited from the swatches, because how does it look on the eyes? And these, swatching it, I was like, oh no. Oh no. And again, it's not like the quality is absolutely terrible, and to me it is very easy to use if you like a softer type of eyeshadow look. That to me is what Urban Decay can be kind of good for. You know, I think of like their Naked palettes, and that's kind of their formula, and that's kind of what they stick to. Sometimes they do something a little bit more out of the box, like this one from She-Hulk, the wild greens. But I don't know, I feel like if you have the wild greens, you definitely wouldn't need this one. If you absolutely love the collaboration, maybe it would be something that you would want to grab. But just the quality in here, I can't say it blew me away. It's definitely not a standout palette to me. At number 9, I do have quite a few older palettes in this video because right now I am focusing on using what I already have in my collection. I've been talking in several videos about how I'm really trying to cut back on how much makeup I'm buying right now. I just feel very overwhelmed by the new makeup releases. I feel very overwhelmed by my own makeup collection. Some days I feel like I'm drowning in makeup, and I know that might sound silly to some, or it might sound like a dream to some, but I feel like it's really hindering my ability to make my apartment feel like a home, to make me feel organized, because I just constantly have makeup strewn everywhere. And even when it comes to finances, I track everything that I spend, and every single month when I look to see how much I spend on makeup, I just think, why? In one of my videos, I talked about everything I'm spending my money on right now that's not makeup, and I really had an emphasis on traveling and doing things that are more memory-based, ball games, concerts. I did like a scavenger hunt in Vegas the other day that I thought that was so fun, and that's kind of what I want to focus and where I want to put my money. So I did a video in August doing 5 looks with 5 old palettes. So of course I have all of these palettes in here. So again, these are palettes that I like. Just sometimes when I'm doing this series, if I do have older palettes, sometimes I rank them a little bit lower just because the newer palettes are usually the more exciting things, and I'm using them a little bit more right now. But Like I said, not any out and out misses in this video, but at number 9, I have from Natasha Denona, and this is the gold palette. I'll say out of all of my Natasha palettes, this one isn't necessarily my favorite. It's not my least favorite. I've done a ranking of all my Natasha palettes, but that was, I want to say it was definitely last year that I did that one. So I could do an updated one if you would want to see that. But again, it's not my least favorite. It's not my top favorite. It just kind of falls in there. And out of all of the looks that I did for that 5 looks, I feel like my Natasha one was probably my least favorite. I used the more duochrome shade up here, and I thought that it was a pretty look. I liked a lot of the mattes in this palette. I thought they were very easy to use, but for whatever reason, the shimmers have never really like blown me away with this one. I feel like especially her mini palettes and then the midi palettes, that's what's really gotten my attention with the Natasha brand, and that's what I typically recommend, because this is a $129 eyeshadow palette, which is of course very, very expensive. I still like it, of course, and I still keep it around. I have a lot of good memories with this palette. It's just not like a tippy top favorite by any means. At number 8, I have the Volume 1 from Tati Beauty. So when I was thinking how to rank these particular 5 palettes and mesh it in with this video, because I still like them. They're palettes that have made it through my declutters, and some of them have made it through multiple declutters. So I was trying to go off of how much I feel inspired by the palettes and how much I still reach into them, even when I'm not just focusing on older makeup. Yes, I said that correctly. Even though I try a lot of new makeup, there's still that time where I go into my makeup collection, I was like, you know what? I want to use this old palette, that old palette. I'm traveling, I want to take this trusty palette with me. So that is kind of how I decided I wanted to try to rank these. So for the Tati Beauty, putting it at number 8, I think that it's a really beautiful palette. It's sometimes I feel a little bit stuck. I'm not sure if it's the way that it's lined up. I'm not sure if it's because it's essentially, you know, 5 different shades, 6 different shades just in different finishes, that sometimes it throws me off a little bit. I always like all of the looks that I do with it. I'm also not a huge pressed glitter fan, but I feel like with this palette, that's kind of what I always go to and always go to, because I also feel like they're kind of the standouts of this palette. So sometimes I feel a little bit stuck, or I do kind of the same similar looks with this one. Again, it's beautiful. I love the big mirror in here. I wish we would have, you know, a volume 2 coming out, but it's not my most reached for amongst my older palettes. At number 7, I have from Dose of Colors. This is the collaboration with Desi and Katy, and this is the Friendcation palette. Again, this is a really fun one too, one that I've kept through many, many declutters. I think this one came out in 2018, so obviously I've had this for a long time. I've kept it through a lot of very cutthroat declutters especially. It's made multiple moves with me, and it's really beautiful. I really enjoyed the look that I did in the 5 looks video, and then I actually kept this one out and I did another just very basic brown smoky eye. You know, I was kind of in a hurry, but some of the shimmers in here, just to like pop this on the lid, is so beautiful. It creates just such a pretty look. When I hosted an event in Las Vegas, and this is actually what I wore the first night. I just did some of the matte browns in here, and then I just used this all over, and it's a little bit more of like a sheer gold, so it just made for this really pretty wash on the eyes. And I thought for like a 10-minute makeup look, I did a pretty good job. So I still really enjoy the Friendcation and the packaging. At number 6, another old palette I have from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Soft Glam. This is the first palette that I used in my 5 looks video. This, again, it's really high up there for me on the Anastasia palettes. My personal favorite is still the Sultry. I wore the Sultry on New Year's Eve this year. I've worn the Sultry multiple more times throughout the year. That's one that I continually kind of pull out. It's a very trusty eyeshadow palette for me. But with this one, I still think it's stunning. I love all the neutrals in here. I'm definitely much more of a neutral lover. I don't usually do more bold eyeshadow looks. I don't usually do these darker tones, but something about the Alice in Wonderland, that palette was really inspiring me, and it was inspiring me to get out of my comfort zone. But this, to me, this is much more of a Samantha palette. Like the shade Dusty Rose is just an absolute favorite. So Soft Glam, still beautiful, still a trusty one, of course, in my collection. I will say, I feel like 1 through 5 was really, really hard to rank, and I went back and forth so many times. Like on my list, I have things scribbled out and wrote back in. I was like, okay, you don't have to take it so seriously, Samantha, but I was like, just pick, just do it. But at number 5, I have from Glamlight. This is the collaboration with Mikayla. So I was really excited about this one. I purchased it myself the day that it launched, but I was really sad because I was actually flying to the launch party for this palette, so I missed it when it first launched, and the smaller palette sold out. I am definitely much more of a smaller palette fan. 9 shades, you know, somewhere right in there, 7, 8, 9 shades. That's kind of like my sweet spot. So I believe this one has 30 shades. And this to me is just, it's a little bit overwhelming. It's a little bit a lot. It is also very colorful, but I really like purples and I really like greens. So even when I got off the plane and I was getting ready, eating gummy bears, getting ready to go to this launch party where everyone's gonna be vlogging, I had total imposter syndrome. I had a panic attack on the way there. I was like, oh no, the little one sold out. Well, I'm still gonna get the big one. And it's still really beautiful. I really like the Glamlight quality of their eyeshadow palettes. The Dirty Martini continues to be a favorite in my collection. So when I saw this, I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna go ahead and get the bigger one. And I don't regret it. I've definitely used a few of the same shades in here. There's a lot more shades that I need to use in this eyeshadow palette, but I also don't know. Like, this is why I don't love to buy big eyeshadow palettes, because I'm like, there's probably shades in here I'm never going to use, and then it feels like slightly wasteful to me. But at least the quality is still great. There's a lot of options, and it includes 2 of my favorite colors. So it's like, it's all good. Coming in at number 4, I have the palette that I used today. So this is from Sigma Beauty. This is their Alice in Wonderland collection, eyeshadow palette specifically. So this palette does launch on September 8th, but I do already have this look up on YouTube. I will definitely have some more looks coming. I went back and forth on if I even wanted to put it in this video, since I've only used it one time. And then I was like, I should put it a lot low. But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you why I put it in at number 4. I love the Sigma quality for their eyeshadow palettes. It's some of my favorites. I get excited for every release. And even when I first saw this one, which was when I got to visit the Sigma headquarters in April, we were able to see the Alice in Wonderland collection. I immediately got excited. This is, to me, a more colorful palette. I know for people who are really into colorful makeup, you're like, it's really not that much. But I like that there's colors and I like that they're neutrals. But another reason I wanted to put it in higher is because I am so inspired by this palette. And just for another example, again, the Mikayla palette is just so large that I don't have the most visual mind. When I look at that palette, I feel very overwhelmed and I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what color scheme to go with. And I just get very like, when I look at this 14 pan palette, I'm like, I want to do a look over here. And then I want to definitely use that shade. This green is so beautiful. Can't wait to use that pink. Today I looked at it and I was like, I'm doing something completely outside of my comfort zone and I'm focusing over here. And that makes me so excited about an eyeshadow palette, because it's kind of rare for that to happen for me. There's palettes that I still think are really pretty and I like the looks of them, but still I'll sit and I'll stare. I'll stare. And I will try to figure out what the heck it is that I am doing. And with the Sigma palettes, the way that they lay out their eyeshadow palettes is very eye-catching to someone who is not the most visual minded, because they explained it to me one time is that they kind of put it into quads. So while it might look eclectic, you can use this quad here, then you can use this quad, and then everything kind of makes sense that way. And a lot of times that's exactly how I work in the Sigma palettes. So I was very impressed with this one. You know, full disclosure, of course, I've only used it the one time, so take that how you will. But I also love that they come with the double-ended brushes. This is the one that comes in the Alice in Wonderland palette. Great brushes in here. I also love the packaging. I just think the Alice in Wonderland collection as a whole was really well done. I think Sigma just nailed it with this one. I was gonna say nailed it out of the park. I think they really crushed it with this one, so wanted to put this at number 4. At number 3, I have a very special eyeshadow palette. This is from Oprah Cosmetics in collaboration with Samantha March. This is the Life's a Draft palette. So this is the palette that I launched with Ofra in March of 2021. And this one has seen some love from me, and this is not even my only palette. But in this palette, you have 8 eyeshadows here. There's a bronzer, a highlighter, and also a blush. And I just love this palette, but I have been doing a lot of traveling in the month of August. I was able to go to Hawaii. I was able, again, to host a weekend in Vegas, so I stayed at one of the resorts here. This is just one of those palettes that I just always toss into my travel bag because it's so easy to use. I don't need to worry about the shadows breaking. I don't need to worry about like glass or anything like that when I think about like foundations or cheek products even. The eyeshadows on here, the quality is the quality that I need. They're not the pressed pigments. They don't take a long time to blend. And a lot of times when I'm traveling or I'm on the go or I'm in a rush, I just need something that's gonna work. It's gonna work quickly and it's gonna work easily. And to me, that's the shadows. I wore this. Was this the only palette I brought to Hawaii? might have been the only palette I brought to Hawaii. I think I just brought along one of these Charlotte on the go where it had like a shadow stick in there. I think that was all I brought on my Hawaii trip. But then I also love that you have the face shades. Like you have so much in this palette, and this is why it always just gets tossed in my travel bag with me. The bronzer, well, all three of these I've used as eyeshadows, but especially the bronzer, I use it like in the crease. The highlight shade, I just think is so beautiful on the eyes, an inner corner highlight, brow bone. And then of course, I love the really shimmery blush that we put into this palette. So obviously this palette means a lot to me. The shade names that I selected means a lot to me. This will always be a favorite palette of mine, especially we launched it at a time where my life was in total turmoil, and yet nobody knew it yet besides the team at Ofra. The team at Ofra were the first people besides my immediate family that knew of my divorce and my upcoming move, because I had shade names that were named after like my wedding and things like that. So I had to call them and let them know and ask if we could make changes to the palette. So being able to go to Miami that March, just weeks before the moving truck showed up at my house to move me from Iowa to Vegas, this palette will always have such good memories to me, and it continues to be a favorite, and I bring it with me pretty much everywhere. At number 2, I am very excited about this because I've never tried this brand before, and because I'd never tried this brand before, but when I got in this eyeshadow quad from Roen Beauty, this is called Eyes On Me, I was like, I need to try this ASAP. This is a beautiful rose gold quad, and I was like, okay. So I do have a video. I have it up as a short here on YouTube, but I know that I also have it, I think, on Instagram or TikTok, or I don't know. We have to put everything everywhere these days, so it gets very confusing. But I can link the short. Any videos that I have where I am doing demos or tutorials, I always link those in my description box along with the link to the palette that I'm talking about, if there's anything that you are interested in. But from Roen Beauty, I was really excited to try this. So we have 2 cream products here, and then these 2 are non-cream products. And I remember when I first put up my, I think it was either my TikTok or my short, people were saying Roen is known for having all cream quads. And I said, yes, but these are new, and these are ones like in the little PR package, it said, you know, only 2 are going to be the creams out of here. I've also heard a lot of people talk about the creasing on this. Even when I posted my short on YouTube, one comment was, this is so pretty, but it's gonna crease so badly on you. I will say I don't have a lot of issues with my eyeshadows creasing. I just don't. I don't use an eyeshadow primer most days. Even if I'm using something really glittery or shimmery, I often don't use like a glitter glue. I typically just use a concealer and set it with a powder, and I don't have issues with creasing. I have used this, I think 3 different times. I did my first look, which I thought was so stunning. A little bit more like shimmery over the top beautiful, but I loved it. It was kind of fall vibes. And then I did another look with this one, and I was kind of just focusing on the cream shadows because I wanted to see, are those maybe kind of what's causing the issue here? So it was just like a really light, you know, kind of no makeup day. And I haven't had any issues. So again, I just want to preface that by saying this is not a problem I normally run into, but for me, I don't know if, I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you because I haven't tried Roen in the past. So I can't tell you if I feel like their formula has changed or not. Maybe I'll do, you know, my 4th and 5th look and I'll be like, what the heck? This is so creasy. If that does happen, I can definitely come back and do an update. But with the looks that I've done so far with this, I haven't had any issues. But I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really easy to use. I like the addition of the cream shadows in here with the powder shadows. That shimmer was such a just showstopper from this quad. I have been very impressed with this. I actually took this in my bag with me also to the Resorts World weekend. So I had Life's a Draft and Roen. I just wasn't sure what I was going to be feeling, so just wanted some options in my bag. And then at number 1, we actually have an old palette. I had to do it. I had to. I feel like I think I had more old palettes than I did new palettes, yes, in this video. But I had to give, oh, did you see it? I had to give the top spot to the Dream Street. This palette is not available anymore, and I'm so sorry about that, but I hope that you have it in your collection. This is from Colourpop in collaboration with Kathleen Lights, the Dream Street palette. The look that I did with this in my 5 looks video is one of my favorite looks that I have done in quite some time. And once I did that look, now I keep trying to recreate that same look with my other palettes as well, because something about the shimmer and the dark liner and just something was working. And I remember the day that I filmed that look, I was having a good hair day, kind of opposite of today. We were having a good hair day. The lip was looking good. I had like a matching shirt. It was a very monochromatic look, and I just felt in charge, and I was feeling some type of way. And I've kept this palette out. It's so funny because today I was on a live chat with my members, and I feel like someone mentioned a Dream Street palette, and I was like, it is right next to me because I also keep wearing it. It's just so easy to throw on some of these shades. The shimmers in here are just knockout. If you want to do something with color, you can. This was my palette back in the day in like 2018, 2019. I traveled with this palette a ton. I met Kathleen Lights on a trip where I was like, one of the first things I said was, I brought Dream Street on this trip. Like, this palette has so many good memories, but I just think that it's beautiful. And when I was looking at everything, I was like, I know I said I often do older palettes, you know, I do the newer palettes over the older palettes, but I still have to give it, I gotta give it to the Dream Street. It's just so pretty. It survived a lot of declutters, and it's gonna survive a lot more. So after that, that is it for today's video, ranking the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I tried in the month of August. I would love to know what you thought of my ranking. Have you tried any of these? Will you be? I, of course, would love to know. And as always, if you enjoyed this one, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope you also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.